play.
The rolling hills, they call to me.
With you can play. I think I am. When I speak, you're always there. We even listen, what I can tell.
Last night, I watched what might be my favorite movie ever, Nacho Libre. And I love the movie so much that I spent the day rolling down hills pretending to be Nacho. Let me just explain to you why I loved it that much, and in order to do that, I'm just going to tell you about the story, a little bit. The story focuses on Nacho, played by Jack Black. He's this fat guy that grew up orphaned in a monastery, and he always dreamed of being a luchador, which is a Mexican wrestler. And he ends up working as a friar. Basically, he makes food for the kids of the monastery. And he's relatively satisfied with his life until this beautiful nun comes into the monastery, Sister Encarnacion. And when Nacho sees her, he attempts to flirt with her, but his attempts totally fall flat, and the other monks laugh at him. Dejected, he goes out for his run to collect food for the kids, and when he goes to get the chips, they're snatched out of his hands by some street rat. And at this point, he's totally depressed, and he's going back, and then suddenly he sees Ramses. Ramses is the most famous luchador, and Nacho notices how he's surrounded by women, and everyone's cheering his name and throwing gifts at him, and he feels intensely envious. And because of this, Nacho decides to become a luchador. Already up to this point, what I find interesting is how Nacho went from being relatively satisfied with his life, despite having a passion for wrestling, to becoming injected with something else to the mix that pushed him to the breaking point of actually going out and doing it. And we can tell pretty clearly that this is envy. So there's this combination of legitimate passion for wrestling and envy towards Ramses and all of those famous wrestlers that drive him to go out and wrestle. So now, Nacho goes out and finds the street rat that took his chips and convinces him that they should become a tag team. They have this hilarious training montage, and then they go to their first match. They lose the match, but Nacho still really enjoys wrestling and all of the attention that he gets, so he considers it a success. But after a few more matches of consistent losing, he becomes disillusioned. So his friend, Steven, goes out and tells him, you can just collect an egg, and this magical egg will give you eagle powers. Nacho goes to collect the egg and eats it all up, but ultimately it doesn't help him. He still loses. And the message here seems pretty clear. Because of the losing, Nacho felt that something was missing from his purpose for wrestling. He tries to inject the egg into that purpose, a material fix. But that doesn't really change it, ultimately. He's still stuck in the same situation, and he still loses. At this point, he gets really sad, and he goes back to the monastery and prays for forgiveness, because after all of these pursuits, he actually forgets to cook food for the kids. And in the church, he realizes that he needs something else to power his purpose. Combined with his passion, there needs to be something besides envy that will get him to go out there and perform at his best. And he realizes that this is the kids and also Sister Encarnacion. So now with this inspiration, he goes out and he fights in this big battle with all of the other luchadors that want to fight Ramses, where the winner, the one that's on top of the rest of them, gets to fight him. And he fights his best. But despite that, he still doesn't get first. So even with this purpose that's a combination of passion and then wanting to do good for the kids, it's still not quite enough. And he loses. At this point, he feels that there's nothing left, that he put everything into this. He even had the right purpose, but he still wasn't able to win. So he goes out into the wilderness, which is just right outside the town. But eventually, his friend Steven comes up to him, and Steven says that he was able to injure the top wrestler. So now Nacho was going to be able to fight Ramses. So that adds another piece. We have passion for becoming a luchador. We have the wanting to help, this altruistic drive to help the kid and Sister Encarnacion. And then also we have relationships, his friendship, that ultimately leads him to go to that final match. And when he does, it is just wonderful to watch. He fights Ramses, and a couple times it seems like he's going to lose, but of course Nacho comes out on top. And after all of this happens, he buys a bus for the kids, so they go out and they see the pyramids. And one of my very favorite parts of the film, at the very end, Nacho looks over at Sister Encarnacion, and she just gives him a thumbs up. And that thumbs up means that they're not going to end up together romantically, but Sister Encarnacion legitimately respects and likes Nacho for what he did and his character, even though he's a luchador, which goes against the Catholic practices. So I've kind of already hinted at it up to this point, but what I really like about the film is its overall message, which is that passion is wonderful. And it's maybe not enough to do something. You complement it with something else. And that something can be envy, but it's not really a pure purpose if it's just fueled by envy. Instead, it should be fueled by wanting to help other people. And even then, you can't do this alone. You need relationships, friends that will help you get it done. But if you can have a purpose that's driven by passion and altruism, and you can be guided along by friendships that you made by being kind to others, then you can go ahead and do it. And just watching all of this did make me a little bit sad about myself, because sometimes I feel like I don't have a purpose like that. I want to have this great altruism drive, because I do have many passions that could be injected with that altruistic drive, but I feel like I don't really have it. Like, maybe this video will encourage you guys, so maybe that's a tiny bit of an altruistic drive, but I'm not sure if it's enough. And even while doing all of this, it felt kind of vapid. I was rolling down hills, but it wasn't the same as legitimately fighting. I was doing it all for this bit. So it kind of made me jealous, but hopefully I won't let that envy drive me. But again, just summing it up, it's about having a purpose that's driven by passion and altruism, and then something that is added along with your friendships. And you shouldn't do these things for women in order to earn a relationship, because you can't earn a relationship. Oh, that plane's getting a little loud. Rather, you just do it because you want to, in order to help the people you care about. And if all you get back is friendship and respect, that's good enough too. That's it.